Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. It's the 31st. It's October. It's 2025. All those things are debatable, but whatever. Apparently, it's time to go through all the UFO nonsense all over again because this Atlas 3I thing is making its way everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. It's all over the national news. Don't worry about Trump building a $300 million extension onto the White House with money given to him by all the technology corporations that should not be intermeshed with our government, but they are. Don't worry about the 47 million people that don't have SNAP benefits, may have SNAP benefits. Who knows? Who cares? Don't worry about Trump putting National Guard quick response teams in all 50 states like I told you he would, because Atlas 3I is coming. And they won't shut up about it. It's all over the news. It's all over the podcast. It's absolutely everywhere. So here's a crash course, no pun intended, a reminder of why this is all complete and utter nonsense, which is why I always talk about the book Confusion in Christianity and Confusion in the Cosmos, because it shows you with God's words exactly what's above us, what we can do, and what we can't do. And a UFO can't happen. But a UFO or an alien by any other name would be chariots of the gods, wheels of the gods, angels and demons. But here's a refresher.
Big news for stargazers. A comet making its way through our solar system, apparently growing a tail. So what does that mean, huh? My next guest says there's a 40% chance that it is alien technology. Harvard professor Avi Loeb is with me now. Sir, good morning to you. Listen, when you say alien technology, people want to know, what are you talking about? So to you, Professor, what are you talking about?
It's a blind date of interstellar proportions. We don't know what we are talking about because script writers from Hollywood are not as imaginative as the universe, and we just need to observe. That's my advice on any blind date. Observe the other side before you have an opinion. In this case, the object is anomalous because it comes in the plane of the planets around the sun to within 5 degrees, and the chance of that happening at random is 1 in 500. Moreover, it's very large. It's comparable to the size of Manhattan Island, at least a million times more massive than the first interstellar object that we discovered about 8 years ago. And so the question is, why haven't we seen a million small objects before we see such a giant one? It also behaved in unusual ways. There was a glow during July and August, a glow extending towards the sun. And only September, it started developing a tail away from the sun, the way comets do. And it has also arrived from the direction of the WOW signal from 1977, a radio signal that we couldn't figure out that was definitely extragalactic. So it has a lot of anomalies, about 8 of them that I listed, each of them with a small probability. And my point is that although it may well be a comet and of natural origin, it could also be something like a Trojan horse, a black swan event where we say it's very unlikely for a spaceship to arrive at our backyard, but nevertheless, we should keep that as a possibility because the implications would be huge.
Okay, I need a podcast to get through everything you just said there. But let me ask you a specific question. Put up number 1, guys. Third known interstellar object to travel through our solar system. It's categorized as a comet, not an asteroid. It travels 137 miles an hour. Unclear exactly how big it is. No danger of hitting Earth. I think it's headed toward the sun. So now, I understand after reading about this, it has a tail, and then it disappears. Then the tail reemerges. Then it disappears. And smart people like you at Harvard are saying that this is a possibility that has the ability to slow itself down. Do I have that right? What would that mean?
That is could be the case when it comes closest to the sun. That's the best timing, the optimal time for either slowing down or speeding up. It's called the gravitational assist by the sun, and we use it with our own spacecraft. And it will happen tomorrow on October 29th, 2025. That's when the object will be closest to the sun. The only problem is that it's on the other side of the sun. We can't see it. If you look at the sky right now, it's hiding behind the sun. We can't observe it from Earth. Perhaps for a reason. And the question is, will it release any probes in our direction?
Okay.
We just need to monitor it and observe it, because obviously it would have huge implications for our future if something like that happens.
Got it. Last one and a quick one. When do we know? Is it
In the coming months,
Okay.
it will come closest to Earth on December 19th, just 6 days before Christmas. And my hope
Okay.
is it will not send us any gifts.
All right? Well, that's my
And let
sister's.
me remind you that they have U.S. and other country patents for UFOs that will pass any day of the week as absolute, complete, otherworldly things, because people don't care that these patents have been all over the internet for years. They're patenting UFOs and then lying about it and then not lying about it. But yeah, if somebody sees one of these things in the sky and they attach Atlas 3I to it, Americans will believe it, because Americans believed in the coronavirus. Remember that time? These patents go back a long, long, long time. And like every other video, I will leave links again. But you need to understand, this is not otherworldly technology. It's interdimensional technology. Things that have been around for time immemorial, which is why NASA does absolutely nothing well. Entities like CERN and ITER and other underground laboratories, deep underground military bases just hum right along. These guys have been working on this for a long time. This is not new information. I've shown this I don't know how many times over the years. And I find it really strange that back in the 50s, when they would show a picture of a UFO, it looked like an old car from the 50s. But now, UFOs from 2025 are sleek and tic-tacs. They look like Teslas. Isn't that a strange, unusual coincidence? And these patents aren't hidden whatsoever at all. Whatsoever at all. Remember the Phoenix Lights? I told you about that years ago. I know exactly what that was. It was literally them using a truck, a U.S. Army truck, with a projector that was projecting a hologram into the sky. And what was the hologram being projected on? Barium, strontium, and aluminium. The perfect medium to spray into the atmosphere, to show holograms on. And these things are just as real as they fool the eye. You know what I mean? They're just as real as you think they are, because all you can do is see them. And like I said, all these patents are right out there. They can use a jet fighter or any type of a military plane with an optical carrier on it that can literally send out beams. What it can do is it can shoot. The airplane flies through the sky, and using lasers, it's shooting out UFOs. What appears to be, to the eye and to the radar and to the infrared, it appears to be an unknown entity, a craft, that you just can't keep up with it so fast. It's so fast because it's not real. It's light. These guys are going to pull this because this is the New World Order. Here it goes. Everything is happening right now. This isn't coming down the road. This isn't in 10, 20 years. You know what I mean? I won't be making videos with absolutely no hair going, yep, and in 2045, it's the end game. 2030. They're getting all their ducks in a row right now. You need to be aware.
Here, secreted away in a hangar, is a revolutionary aircraft. The Air Combat Command's USAF YAL 747. It's not the speed or how high it can fly that makes it so special. It's the cargo. The world's first airborne directed energy weapon, the airborne laser, also known as the ABL. Just mounting the ABL requires one of the most sophisticated and elaborate modifications in history. The entire nose section is removed and retrofitted, and the world's largest titanium plate is installed to hold the enormous turret-mounted laser in place. The ABL system is designed to find, track, and destroy an enemy target in the air and on the ground. It can loiter at 40,000 feet for 5 hours, refuel in midair, and destroy a target 60 miles away in less than a second.
You have only a microsecond to respond, and that's not enough time for any system to respond. So the laser is almost instantaneous. Aircraft don't fight each other at close range by dogfights anymore. That's because they fly with missiles, and the missiles today have a range of like 20 kilometers plus. So if you detect a not friendly aircraft that you wish to attack, you'll do so by radar, and you'll attack that when it's still well outside what I would call the range of old-fashioned cannons on aircraft. So we don't see dogfights close in now. What we see is missiles that are launched and go a distance. The laser itself has a speed of Mach 300,000, so it's 300,000 times faster than if I launch a missile from an aircraft. So in the future, it will not be aircraft in a dogfight. It will be aircraft at a distance being brought down by laser beams.
The Airborne Laser Project was launched in 1996 at a cost of over $1.5 billion. The weapon is projected to be combat-ready by 2015. There's also the fear that it could trigger a super high-tech arms race.
1986, while stationed at an underground installation near Boulder, Colorado, I was introduced to Project Skybeam by Lieutenant General Andrew Garris. I was then led down a corridor and into a large hangar where a stealth bomber hovered only 20 feet above me. I stood there confused. Then Garris looked over at me and smiled, then asked if I was certain of what I was seeing. I replied, of course. What else could it be? I was then shocked to find out that this wasn't a real craft. It was a projected hologram. Since the early 1950s, scientists have been developing holographic technology, and over the years improved it to a state that we can only imagine. As I stood there staring at the bomber, which looked so absolutely real and solid that I could reach up and touch it, I contemplated the possibilities. What if this projection was 1,000 feet up in the sky? How would anyone know that that was an illusion? The Phoenix Lights craft, witnessed by 10,000 people, was the first grand-scale skybeam test upon the public. It succeeded beyond expectations. In October 1938, Orson Welles unleashed his War of the Worlds radio broadcast to the American public. It was so realistically portrayed, vast portions of the population went into panic. Terrified citizens scrambled to evacuate their cities in droves. America had been easily tricked by very simple means. To amplify this response, those who are truly in power of not only our country, but all the countries on the planet, and who are the true purveyors of the depopulation process, have formulated the final stage of their sinister plan. In the year 2024, a global event will alter the course of mankind's future. The world will stand witness to a massive alien invasion. Thousands of projected holographic alien warships will blanket the skies, sending people into a global panic. Real military crafts within the holograms will inflict actual damage to the surrounding areas to sell the gimmick. And as a result of the ensuing human chaos, a one-world government will immediately form without any resistance from the people. They will be the new world order.
If enough people believe that something is real, then it is real in its effects.
In terms of social reality.
In terms of the social reality, in terms of what people act according to their beliefs.
Yeah.
And that opens a question of, really at two levels, perhaps something that we are creating ourselves, perhaps a series of images that we are projecting. I think Carl Jung came very close to expressing that idea in one of his books. Or could it be manipulated purposely by people who have the technology to simulate UFO sightings? And people say, well, of course not. Who would do a thing like that? Well, I would remind you that during the Watergate investigation, it was discovered that there was a plan originated in the White House to surface a submarine off the coast of Cuba and paint the second coming of Christ over the island of Cuba using holograms. Which is well within our technology today. The idea was that since there is a large Catholic population in Cuba, they would be so upset by this vision that this would saturate the communication channels, the telephone system in Cuba, long enough for an invasion to take place.
How interesting. I've never heard of that.
Well, I think that's a classic in psychological warfare, but that kind of manipulation is well understood, and I have personally investigated several apparently genuine UFO cases where there was, in fact, my conclusion, the conclusion of scientists working with me, was that there was, in fact, a manipulation taking place, and that it was not a hoax on the part of the witnesses, but a hoax on the part of somebody much better organized.
What do you think about aliens?
I don't think there are any. At one time, I thought that there were, simply based upon documents that I'd seen while I was attached to the intelligence briefing team, the commander-in-chief of the Pacific Fleet. At that time, and even for many years afterwards, I did not believe that the government would use me in that way. I had devoted my whole life to government service. I had been in the Air Force, I was in the Navy, I was a river patrol boat captain in Vietnam, I had proved myself, I had combat ribbons with the V for Valor. There was no doubt of my loyalty to my country. And maybe that's why it was so easy to use me, because I wouldn't doubt that what I saw was real. But over the years, I've done a lot of research. And what I've discovered is there's no proof existing anywhere that extraterrestrials are real, or that have ever visited this planet, or that they exist anywhere in the universe. There is not one shred of evidence anywhere. There is lots of evidence, tons of it in fact, that there are a group of people collectively known as the Illuminati who want us to believe in some extraterrestrial threat from space so that they can cause a world government, bringing together of all the people to resist that external threat. And the first time that I saw any reference to that, I was reading some papers from the Carnegie Endowment Fund, and there was a record of a speech. It was a dinner for Viscount Nishiki of the Japanese delegation, the Japanese imperial delegation, in 1917. And John Dewey was one of the speakers. And the first sentence out of his mouth as I was reading this almost fell out of my chair, because this was in 1917. And he said the best way to cause all people of the world to come together in one world government and end war forever would be if we were attacked by some other species from some other planet. And boy, that just clicked with me, and I knew that this is just another scam. This is the age of deception. There's no doubt about it. And then...
Good morning. My name is Carol Rosin. In 1974, after being a sixth grade school teacher, I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, "Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space." And I said, teachers don't stop until June. He said, "No, you have to understand, this is February. And we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies," he said, "against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system, the first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids." And then he would repeat to me over and over, "And the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat." Well, at the time, I kind of laughed when he said asteroids, and when he said extraterrestrials, I knew I wasn't going to deal with that subject. And now we hear on the news just today, this week, that they've slid in another enemy. Only this time we're going to protect our satellites. In other words, we have to have some reason to spend these trillions, to waste these dollars on a space-based weapon system, and they're all lies. This is a system, he told me, that would never protect anyone. Even back then, he talked about suitcase bombs. He talked about chemical, viral, bacterial, biological warfare, that these space-based weapons would never protect us against. And then he told me that, in fact, if you travel around the world, which I did after he died in 1977, I met with people in over 100 countries who were friends. They didn't want to build space-based weapons. I became a space and missile defense consultant And I worked with people around the world. I became an advisor to the People's Republic of China. They don't want to build a space-based weapon system. And he told me back then that they didn't. He said, go to Russia. They're considered to be the enemy. I got on a plane by myself. When I got to Russia, I had a list of people that I had read out of the newspaper. Chernenko was in office then. He was the only one I didn't get a chance to meet. They introduced me to everyone when I got there. And when I got back, I said, oh my Lord, this man is telling the truth. There is no threat. And I've been waiting until this day for 27 years, and I'm expecting the spin to happen, because he also explained to me that as a military strategist, as a person who worked on the MX missile, which I did later, he said, you will find that there is going to be a spin to find some enemy against whom we have to build space-based weapons. And now we should expect the spin, because he said part of the formula for the intelligence community is if they might have a weapon, then we have to consider that they do have these weapons. So now they do have these weapons, so now we have to build these weapon systems. And that's the formula, except that it's all based on a lie. And we have witnesses here today that have shown you that these extraterrestrial beings, that these craft that have come here are now not UFOs, they're identified flying objects, and we know that they have beings in them. And we have witnesses here who have told you that they can shut down our missile silos, they can stop a rocket going into space that's a test. We have witnesses here who have worked in the classified departments who have the courage to come forward here to support what Wernher von Braun told me back in 1974 to 77. And I will testify before the Congress that when I founded the Institute for Security and Cooperation in Outer Space, which I shut down a few years ago because I didn't believe we had a chance with this huge, integrated around the world, complex weapon system, that we had any chance at all of transforming that war industry into a space industry that could provide benefits, like Dr. Greer has said, of global warming. We can end that situation of that problem. We can end the energy crisis. We can build now non-polluting technologies. Wernher von Braun used to tell me that we could have cars back then that drove around off the ground. He described this to me on beams so that we have no pollution on this planet. And we can solve the problems of the people that are urgent and potential, and the other animals and the other cultures on Earth and in space. And we can end the arms race without dislocating the industry jobs, without disrupting the economy, by transforming, Wernher von Braun told me, the war industry into a global cooperative space industry that will provide, he said, finally, more jobs and profits on this planet than during any hot or cold wartime, more products and services that can be applied directly to solving the problems of this planet. And we can have a whole planet now that lives in peace on Earth, with all the cultures on Earth, and with all the extraterrestrial cultures in space. And these are words that Wernher von Braun told me in 1974, and I will testify before the Congress under oath about everything I have said and more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank each of the witnesses and for your patience. We're running about 50 minutes late, and I do apologize for that. I want to emphasize that all of these witnesses each could speak for probably anywhere from 2 to 5 hours about what they have witnessed. We were trying to give you a snapshot. We have another 400 of these witnesses. I have carried this burden for 8 years. I'm now giving it to you, the American people and the people of the world, to take it forward.